Hey, I'm J.R. Lay, and I'd like to welcome you back to the Level Up Business Podcast. Today's conversation is with my friend Bryan Sweet. Bryan's a fellow entrepreneur and author of The Dream Architect, and together we're going to explore the power of vision as an entrepreneur, the role of purpose, and the importance of knowing your worth in both business and life. We're also going to explore the power of collaboration, the necessity of strong communication in the age of AI, and why growth only happens when you step outside of your comfort zone. But first, talking about stepping outside of your comfort zone. If you are a B2B entrepreneur who has a story to share like Bryan, I invite you to send me a text right now, 832-240-1922, because I want to teach you. I want to show you how easy it is to unlock, to capture, to amplify your unique wisdom, to share your story by turning video content like the one you're watching right now into a best-selling book in just 90 days. Let's get into the conversation with Bryan. Bryan, you know, there's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of chaos. There's a lot of conflict, or at least it can seem that way. It depends upon what you're paying attention to, which is why I'm very mindful of what I watch and what I hear, because I'm very aware that that's going to impact your energy. And I know you have a lot of energy, especially around the subject of helping your clients build an even bigger future, helping them dream even bigger. You've written a book, The Dream Architect. Before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's just start off on a positive note. What is good in your world right now, personally or professionally, to get started?
Well, I would say I just got back from a summit, kind of a tax conference, and we just had some really amazing new tools come out where we're able to help people like that are selling their business or selling a farm or a big, large piece of real estate, keep more of what they've worked hard for. So that's always an interesting scenario when you can keep a little bit more of your hard-earned dollars and do it without having to worry about getting behind the bars of doing it illegally. So that was probably the thing that jumps into my mind first thing.
Well, it is, and I think it's just where you have been last 45 years of being an entrepreneur yourself, specifically. As an advisor and the creator of The Dream Architect, dreaming and dreaming big. I mean, think about everything going back, because you started, was it back in 1979?
December 1st to 79. I'd like to say I started when I was 5, but I might be stretching the truth a little bit there.
Well, think about everything that's happened since that time. We have gone through ups, we've gone through downs, but if you think about over that period, you're still here. I've been doing this since 2002, so I've seen a couple of ups and downs myself. Have you made it through all of these dips and valleys to keep climbing that next mountain as an entrepreneur yourself?
Well, I think it's kind of critical to have a vision of what you think the future could look like, and I would tell you, I'm more excited about what the future can bring with technology and just possibilities than I literally have been in the 45 plus years I've been in the business. So I think just being clear of what you want your future to be and always striving to get to what that vision is really critical.
I mean, what is that future for you as we're sitting here in 2025? If you look ahead just to the next 5 to 10 years, or we could take the Dan Sullivan, the 25-year framework for that matter, and go even that further out. What is that bigger future in your mind through the work that you're doing yourself?
Yeah, I would say it probably falls into a couple of different camps because, being in the wealth management business and being a wealth strategist, we've got lots of opportunities to really positively affect, clients' futures with some new tools we're rolling out. I'm also taking the Dream Architect, and we've created a new platform called the Dream Architect Life, and trying to roll that out to other advisors and clients of advisors, just to allow them to have the best life they can possibly have. And we only get one shot at life, and why not do everything you can to make it as great of an experience as you possibly can.
Well, that's my philosophy is memento mori. It is my personal motto. And for those that are watching and listening, you're not familiar with that term, memento mori is the Stoic philosophy of remember your death. And so I'm curious, as you think about this future, you're mentioning taking the dream architect, building a platform, helping elevate others. That's a point of collaboration, which is the common theme that I'm hearing through these conversations, particularly with growth-minded entrepreneurs, which I'm just getting so much energy of sharing this space with you and with them, because you're thinking about this as a rising tide lifts all ships. When you think about collaboration, what is it that holds entrepreneurs back from collaborating to begin with in the first place?
Well, I think part of it is just the fear of, somebody might take your idea and potentially, run with it or do something else. But I think if you deal with the quality of individuals that you and I get to, share conversations or sitting across the table with, it's so much more than that. And when you get in the room with other people that have talents and skills, and then you start talking about your dream and visions, and they start talking about theirs, putting them together, 1 + 1 can be 11 instead of 2. And it's just magic, the new things that can be created simply by taking, your unique abilities, using another Dan Sullivan term, and theirs, and creating something that doesn't exist but that can be really helpful to others.
Well, when you talk about that, working together, collaborating, co-creating, where do you see opportunities? Because you mentioned technology being a multiplier. You're doing this with the Dream Architect platform. Where do you see those big opportunities, either yourself or just with other conversations you're having with entrepreneurs these days? Because we're looking at things very different than what a lot of people are seeing right now.
Yeah. Well, where all this came about and how these ideas got created was really problems I kept seeing clients have and wanting to be a resource to them. But I found that I really wasn't the person that had the skills or the talents to help them. But I knew other individuals that did have those talents. And so, in an effort to try and create resources to solve problems of clients, these other opportunities popped up by just simply having conversations with others that had that skill set. And then in conversations, things blossom out of that even go beyond what your initial thoughts were, which is really where the fun becomes apparent. Yeah.
Well, when you talk about these conversations, and one of the observations that I'm making, for example, I was just recently doing a career day at one of our 4 kids' schools, and so working with a bunch of 7th and 8th graders.
Great for
You
you.
know, so this is actually interesting. This came from doing the life extension exercise with Dan. Because I put down 79 was my first year, and then we did the life extension. It was 123, and then what are you gonna do with all the extra time? And I was like, well, I'm gonna start mentoring other entrepreneurs. And the question was, well, why are you waiting? Like, why not start doing that now? And so that it changed the trajectory of just my own life. And what I've observed though with them is communication. There's a communication gap. There's a conversation gap.
Yep.
Even to the point of like just shaking a hand, looking someone in the eye,
Yeah.
holding a conversation. I think that's going to be a skill as we move further into the age of AI, just as I'm observing and reading, particularly if, we have large language models like ChatGPT, for example, the critical thinking ability. Where do you see an opportunity to further leverage connection, conversation, communication as a differentiator from an entrepreneur to then either look for collaborations or opportunities to solve problems that their clients might be confronted with?
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more with you about technology. I think, we look at sitting here doing this 3 or 5 years from now, and AI is probably going to do, a good majority of the day-to-day monotonous kind of things. And so you having communication skills or relationship skills, AI is not going to replace that. And so the more you can relate to people and help solve problems and communicate with other individuals and collaborate with other individuals to help, solve those problems, that's where all the big solutions and all the big innovations are going to come from. And, the day-to-day type things will be done by robots and AI and, thank you, Elon Musk and, all the other smart people. But I just think that's going to be critical. And I think my whole team will be relationship people, and we'll still provide all the services, but it'll just be done by, AI and other things like that.
I mean, go back and think about since 79 to now, how has your business transformed and evolved over the years when it comes to relationships, communication, these core concepts that I do believe as we become more, it's interesting. We're more connected than we've ever been as society, but we're also seeing, when we think about like Jonathan Haidt's book, The Anxious Generation, we're seeing these issues come up that weren't an issue 20 or 30 years ago, pre-internet or early internet for that matter. So it's just a very interesting time period, because it is an uncharted territory that there's not really a roadmap for. So we're learning and figuring things out at a very, very rapid pace.
Yeah. Well, I would say, maybe to change your question a little bit, the thing that hasn't changed since 1979 is relationships and communication skills. That's really the key back in 1979, and I would say it's even more important today, because we went from, using all sorts of different things to do the work behind the scenes, but that's the thing that probably hasn't changed in 45 plus years, is just those 2 points.
Well, you come back to this point of communication, and you've got this book, you've got this platform now, The Dream Architect. And one of the things that is in the book is helping people decide what they want.
Yeah.
And I bring this up because I literally was talking to an entrepreneur about 2 weeks ago. So I actually might just send him this conversation to help him out, because he's probably, I think he's in his mid 50s at this point, and he's built a good firm. But I was saying, okay, well, using the R factor question from Dan, it's like, we're having a conversation 3 years from now. What needs to happen between now and then for you to feel good? He was like, I don't really know. I don't really know what I want. And this gets back into kind of Dan's thought of wanting what you want, or something that I've just recently read. It was a book written in 1926. I didn't read it, actually. I listened to it on an audiobook on a YouTube channel that I subscribe to called Master Key Society. It's a short little book called It Works. And it reminded me a lot of Dan's perspective on wanting what you want. But why isn't it important to, when you want to dream, be a dream architect?
Well, I think it's important because, unfortunately, I think a lot of people just let life happen to them instead of doing things to make what they would get them the most joy or give them the most impact. And I don't know exactly when it happens or how it happens, but if we all think back when you're little kids, we're all going to be president and we're going to be astronauts, and we have these great big ideas and wishes and thoughts. And then maybe it's high school and people saying, you can't do that, or how do you think you can, be that good, or whatever it might be. And then unfortunately, people just let that control their lives. And one of the things that's part of our Dream Architect Life platform is purpose. That's one of the pillars. And where purpose comes in, and it might be, your gentleman you were talking about, but it definitely happens when somebody is like retiring or going from one job to another. They know where they're coming from, but they don't know what they're going to. And that's why so many people have such a difficult time when they retire, because they want to get away from something, but then they don't know what they want to get to. So instead of making the next chapter an even better chapter than their previous life, they just, watch Oprah reruns or, whatever. And so, we just see that all the time. And that's why we've collaborated with all these experts that's all they do is help people understand and, ask them the right questions so they can see the future, and then give them the steps to help them move towards that vision of really what is important to you, and get your true thoughts and meaning and feelings, on paper or whatever, but just something that helps you move forward.
What is it that's important to you? Because you've been very intentional with this. I mean, even this dream architect. I mean, if you think about what an architect, it's planning, it's intentionality, it's focus, it's revision, it's taking in new perspective and being willing to change as well. What's important to you when you think about the future that you're creating for yourself?
Yeah, well, I would tell you I've been extremely blessed. Not that I haven't worked hard, but I would tell you, like, I'm probably the poster child for the dream architect life. So, I had my mom was divorced when I was 3. My dad wasn't involved. I mean, we all have a story like that. So it wasn't like I was born on third base and,
Right.
think I hit a triple or something. But I just think of all of the amazing things I get to do, that I've done, the people that I've met, the success that I've had, the impact on other people's lives. And it's just as simple as, well, if I can do it, why can't I share concepts and ideas on how literally anybody can do it? Not that it's easy, but a lot of times people don't do things because they don't know the steps, or where do I go from here? I've never done it, so I have no idea. So this is my life. I'm just going to live it. But if you give some people some, encouragement, and, tell them they can do things, and show them, people like us that have done it, not everybody, but a lot of people will take those steps, and the reward for spending that time is just the comments you hear back, like, boy, you made a difference. And I mean, I don't know myself, a lot of times, you would do that for free because it makes you feel so good about being able to help others. And, it's just, I think that's, kind of all of our true north is, how do you help others, deliver value to others? And as you and I have talked offline, the more you help others, the more you get. And Joe Polish, who runs the Genius Network, has a saying, life gives to the giver and takes from the taker. And I think if you just have that as a motto and live by that, hard for not a lot of good things to happen.
Well, when you think about this intentionality and this focus of helping elevate others, helping others to level up with the Dream Architect framework, giving them the opportunity to even just dare to dream to begin with in the first place.
Yep.
But then also too, what has to change? Because it's your past is nothing more than just the data, the experiences that you've had to get you to this point. But then when you start the shift, thinking from the dream, that future state, and working from that place backwards, you begin to transform as well. What have been the biggest changes that you've experienced personally as an entrepreneur when you think back to when you got started in a very different time, 1979? There was no internet, there was no AI for that matter now, and we're in a whole new area of opportunity. How have you changed just yourself over the years?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And that's kind of why the book Dream Architecture got written is, what is it that you need to do to kind of have your dreams come true? And so I would tell you a couple of key things are the people that you spend the most time with. And they need to be encouraging, uplifting, individuals that are doing things that you either aspire to, or or you feel good about being in their company. Because if you just think about some of the people you hang with, if they aren't in those categories, you're just going to kind of follow suit. And so I'm very intentional not to get rid of people, but to spend a lot less time with people that aren't in those categories that I personally set for myself. I'm a real big believer in like mastermind groups or being in rooms intentionally where it forces you, once a quarter or once a year or whatever it might be, to be in rooms where you're not the smartest guy in the room, and ideally you might be the lowest on the totem pole, because how do you learn? Well, you learn when you're feeling discomfort. And another line I like is get comfortable being uncomfortable. Because what that's telling you is you're growing and you're getting better. And so push yourselves until the point where, that's not feeling good. Well, that's probably a good thing then, and you're in the right direction.
Absolutely, because growth never happens in the comfort zone, and in fact, that's when we're
Yeah.
when we're trapped in the cave of complacency. That's when the world starts to pass us by. Now, coming back to your point about be mindful of who you're, and I like to use the word investing time instead of spending time.
Yeah, invest. I love that. That's a much better term. Thank you. Yeah.
Because this is something that I wrote about in Banking on Change, because when we think about time, especially when it comes to technology we know is a multiplier. It's an exponential multiplier. Well, time becomes a multiplier too. And I think about, for example, you take your ideas, you've packaged them up into the book, the Dream Architecture. You also host, like I do, you have the Dream Architect Life podcast. So you're investing time to write the book. You're investing time to have the conversations, build the relationships with a podcast. But then that time becomes a multiplier as others read the book, listen to the podcast, are inspired. So when you think about time, it's one of the questions I ask is who's on your team? So time, energy, attention, and money. So how are you investing your time? What are you spending your energy on? Because energy is going to be finite. Eventually, you're going to have to disconnect, recharge, unless when you come back to the idea of like unique ability. So like with Dan, you're working in unique ability. Well, you're going to be at a high level of energy all the time. So you'll have more time to invest. But then it's how we started this conversation. Attention. What are you paying attention to? Because what you pay attention to is going to directly impact how you spend your time and invest your energy. And all of that's going to come down to the bottom line, which is your relationship with money. Which, coming back to the book, Dream Architecture, you in the book on this, and I think it's important as we start to wrap up here, when we think about, yes, it's a time of what many feel confusing, chaotic, a lot of conflict, but for entrepreneurs, know your worth.
Yes.
Know your worth. Why is that important to not forget, and why did you end the book with a chapter on know your worth?
Well, I think, one, we all underestimate the value that we deliver as humans and as, entrepreneurs. And one of the things that, if you don't feel good about yourself or your worth, what happens is your confidence level drops immensely. And, all good things happen when you have confidence. And, I just have found that is such a good thing, but it starts with yourself, and you've got to understand, who you are and what value you can bring, and constantly reminding yourself of that. So affirmations are a really good thing. And so, one of the easy things that most people can do is in the morning to get your day started, get your, 6 inches between your ears in the right framework, is just read some positive affirmations about yourself, of what you are or what you desire to be, and then use it as if you've already accomplished it. I am this. I did this. And read them a number of times. And if you do that just day after day after day, pretty soon you'll start believing them. And then you'll start acting differently, and your results will start changing because you've got more confidence, because now you feel like your worth is greater.
Well, I think that's a really important point, is you begin to believe it, so your behavior shifts, and when your behavior shifts, your results are going to shift, so it's all interconnected. What would be the one thing that you would recommend for another fellow entrepreneur who is watching this, who's listening to this, do right now, something small, to where they can, and to come back to chapter 9 of your book, dream big and then go bigger and beyond? What can they
Yeah.
do to become a dream architect for themselves?
Well, I think the one simple thing, because everybody can do it, is make some, I like to call it thinking time. So, first thing in the morning, book out yourself just to do nothing but think. And purposely, maybe do several things. Hal Elrod had a great book on, morning,
Miracle Morning.
Miracle Morning, things like that, where maybe you read something positive, you write your thoughts on, what your vision is, you do affirmations, all of those things. And maybe make 10 minutes or 15 minutes, or then you keep expanding it, and you will be surprised what will happen if you just simply do that. Because when you're creating good habits, you're instilling in your mind, because your mind only goes the direction of thoughts that you give it. So if you give it negative thoughts, it's going to look for actions you can take to fill the negative. But if you give it like big audacious dreams and goals, it's going to look for those too. And I can give you so many examples, and I'm sure you have the same, where you're thinking of something, and that's preoccupying your mind, and then all of a sudden you're at a meeting, you're having a conversation, like voila, it's there. But because you're thinking of it, you're exuding that out to the audience, and it just shows up. I don't know how it works, but it works.
So a little bit of neuroscience to add upon your thought, and even a framework that I wrote about in Banking on Change to add to your morning exercise. And we did talk about the Miracle Morning with Rusty. He has integrated this into his own behavior. He's also in the wealth management space, and he's seeing things differently, because if you think about what inspires change, you got to first and foremost see things differently. And when you begin to see different, you're going to think different. Thought patterns change. And when working with other entrepreneurs, I ask them to say, great, so you're seeing different. Yes, you're thinking different. Great. So what's going to be the third step in your transformation? They're like, I'm going to act different. I'm going to do different. I'm going to be different. I'm like, are you really? Because how many times do you know right now that you need to do something different, but you're failing to take action? They're like, great point. I said, what are you missing? They're like, I'm not sure. I said, so to bridge the gap between your thought and your action, you got to feel different. There's an emotional shift. It's in the heart, because that desire to do, to be, to act different has to be greater than the desire to just remain in the status quo, the cave of complacency. And so coming back to the neuroscience, to your point, like when you start seeing and thinking differently with this dedicated investment of time, 10 minutes in the morning, back to your point, affirmations, and like reticular activating system. It's like when you buy a car, you start seeing, oh my gosh, everyone's driving my car. Well, everyone was driving your car before. You just happen to notice it because
Exactly.
your awareness has simply shifted. So thank you for shifting some of my awareness today, Bryan, because it's always great to just unlock the wisdom of other entrepreneurs. You can't get this in a large language model, but you only can get this from Bryan's unique experience. So if someone wants to connect with you, what's the best way for them to do that and continue the conversation we started here today, Bryan?
Well, I love to, chat with anybody, and just love the topic, and just energizes me to help people. But the easiest way is just maybe an email at Bryan, Bryan, at sweetfinancial.com. Well, that's probably the easiest way, is just do that. I have somebody look at all my emails daily, so we'll definitely get back to you if you wanted to reach out.
And I also want to build upon that. Yes, connect with Bryan for sure, but also tune into the Dream Architect Life podcast. Obviously, if you're listening to this, you listen to podcasts, so go tune into Bryan's podcast and then pick up a copy of his book, Dream Architecture, Build a Retirement Beyond What's Possible. So Bryan, I'm so grateful, man. Thanks for sharing time with me, investing time with me today.
Yeah, no, JR, thank you so much. I really appreciate what energy and information you're exuding into the world, and it just makes everybody better. So it's been an honor to be on the show and spend some time with you.
Thanks, buddy.
All right, all the best.
Thanks again for tuning in to learn, to grow, to level up together with Bryan, with his story, with his unique wisdom. That's because if you are a B2B entrepreneur who is ready to elevate your brand's influence so that you can increase your revenue, send me a text right now, 832-240-1922, because I want to teach you. I want to show you how quick and easy it is for you to unlock, to capture, to to amplify your unique wisdom by turning video content just like the one you just watched with Bryan into a best-selling book in just 90 days.